One of the original fintech companies is making a move into traditional banking. According to the Wall Street Journal, PayPal is slowly nudging some of its customers to add basic banking features like debit cards and direct deposits to their digital wallets. How disruptive will this be to the big old banks? Well, joining us to discuss this is Alison Clark, Principal Analyst of e-business and channel strategy professionals at Forrester. Nice to see you. Thanks for doing this. Why do you think PayPal is doing this now?
Well, look, I think their initial purpose for doing this might simply be to help the underbanked, as we call them, those customers that don't have a banking account and banking services, to bring them into the digital economy so they can, pay for digital services like Uber and so on. But I think, there'll be much broader appeal potentially and a much broader play that could be made here. And, if you're a traditional bank, this is your stuff of nightmares. This is the thing you've been worried about most if you're a traditional bank, and that is that the tech giants like PayPal and Amazon, news came out about them a few weeks ago, potentially going further into the banking space and offering checking accounts. This is your stuff of nightmares because this is what's truly going to disrupt your traditional business.
You talk about they're targeting people that don't necessarily have a bank account. Is that just young people that are coming into the system? I mean, I think I can speak very clearly the memory of going into my first bank with my dad to open up my account and getting a book. And I stayed with that bank until today. That's how those relationships are formed. Is there a potential for a new generation to completely disrupt that model here?
Absolutely. It's new customers coming into the banking system. It's other customers, perhaps lower income customers that might not be in the banking system and, struggle to pay for goods and services that have now moved into the digital space. So I think that the disruption definitely at the younger end. I mean, a lot of consumers, particularly millennials, think that all banks are basically the same. That old method of going into the branch to open your bank account with your mum and dad just seems completely antiquated. Not just that, the products and services that they're getting offered by these banks, they haven't changed in many, many years. They're exactly the same as what their parents have. And at the end of the day, firms like Amazon and PayPal can come in with new services and new product offerings. And the reason why they'll disrupt the market and the reason why the banks need to be worried is because they can go out and they can add value to their customers above and beyond just the banking product, right? They can curate experiences that are far broader than just a banking product, like Amazon. I mean, imagine a checking account that also comes with great Amazon Prime benefits. I mean, gosh, that's a bank account I'd want to take out, and I think a lot of consumers, be they younger and older consumers, would as well. It certainly add a lot more value to you than what you're getting out of your bank right now.
Now, the first thing we're going to hear from the big banks is these guys don't even have a banking license. Are they legally allowed to do this?
Exactly. They can, and the reason is that they've never needed a banking license. I think some of the traditional firms think their business will be protected for regulation, but the reason why they don't need a banking license is because all they need to do is partner with a bank that is willing to offer that underlying product for them. And what they then do as a tech giant at the front end is merge that and integrate into their existing platforms and experiences. And that's the difference. They'll curate a better experience for their customers than the traditional banks will. And I think part of that comes from the fact that a lot of these tech giants and a lot of these kind of, like PayPal or these old startups or even new startups, they are laser focused on the end consumer and the customer and the broader needs of those customers. Whereas traditional banks, they might say that they're focused on customers, but they really are still very much product silos. They're still, focused on churning out product and making their fees through those underlying products. So it's very different business models.
I look at the relationships they have with these banks. I think it's like your checks would be cashed out of a bank in Georgia, and they get loans out of a bank in Utah, and your checking account, your debit card would come from a different bank in Wisconsin. You might be in a fourth state traveling to a fifth state. Is there some regulatory concern about, the technology makes it all look quite integrated. Is there concern in having that many different parts to this, especially if the entity itself isn't regulated as a bank?
Look, I'm sure the regulators will look at this and see what the concern is. But at the end of the day, what I think will happen is, these products will be serviced by the banks. There's no real difference than if somebody came came along and white labelled a product now, you know, even for like a store card or something like that. There's no real difference to that particular model. I think that, sure, the banks that are underpinning the offering of Amazon, I mean, they will need to make sure they've got the right licenses in different states, particularly here in the US where it's so different. But at the end of the day, as a customer, you don't care. As long as the banking does what you need it to do, you don't care. It'll probably feel a little bit like it's Amazon if you're aligned, or to PayPal if you're aligned with those particular brands. They don't care. I mean, even here in the US, I think a lot of consumers that use Venmo, for example, don't realise that it's owned by PayPal. Right. Part of it's about the branding and the experience at the front end. I think the back end will sort itself out, and it, you know, they can curate multiple vendors and multiple banks in the background, yes.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Fascinating chat, though. I really appreciate you doing this. Alison Clark, a principal analyst of e-business and channel strategy professionals at Forrester.